CNN legal analyst and civil rights attorney Areva Martin joins us more now. So, Areva, we were talking about this a few hours ago. Just explain to us why you think this draft opinion might have been leaked. What do you think the intention was behind that?
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about the leaked draft opinion. Those on the right are pointing the fingers at liberals. Liberals are pointing the fingers at conservatives. There's some theory that conservatives wanted the opinion to get out so that the outrage that people would have would happen now and would be dissipated by the time of the midterm elections. Many on the left think that this leaked opinion may have been from someone that was a liberal because they wanted it to come out to galvanize voters in leading into the midterm elections. So I don't think we're ever going to know. Maybe through this investigation, we'll find out who actually leaked the opinion. But what we do know is that this is appalling. It's shocking that this kind of thing should not happen, that a draft opinion that should be only circulated amongst the 9 justices and that should be kept confidential until it's published should have never made its way into the public sphere.
Obviously, the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court ruling is actually the law of the land. So what recourse now, if this is the final opinion, what recourse now do those on the left actually have? Is it simply sort of political recourse just in terms of state laws? Just walk us through that.
Yeah, mostly it is about state laws because we know at least half of the country already have trigger laws or are ready to pass legislation that would ban abortion. But we also know in more liberal states like California, New York, those states have made a commitment to continue to allow women to have agency and control over their bodies. But it's going to be up to each state legislative body to determine what that legislative body rules as it relates to women's rights to control their own reproductive health. We also have heard a lot of talk about expanding the Supreme Court and making it a court that has more members, allowing for there to be an appointment of additional judges that would lean more towards the left. But we know that that concept of expanding the court has not gotten a lot of traction with the Biden White House. So I think at this point, we really are talking about elections at the state level and making sure that people get out and vote, and then they vote for those legislators that are going to uphold women's rights to choose.
All right, Areva Martin, live for us there. Thank you so much. And we'll have much more news after this short break.